Hi, everyone. Great to be back here again. So we are more or less midway through our Disruption Forum today. So my name is Karolina and I am part of Netguru, a company behind this event. And on this panel with me, there is one more person, Krzysztof.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm Deputy Engineering Manager in Mobile Team.
And so what we want to share with you through the first less than 10 minutes, I would say, is the short story behind the Tech for Good initiative and I would say program that we have at Netguru. And right after that, we will have a very special guest. So stay with us, listen to the story, and you will see the links between the two initiatives that we are working on, or the two projects. So, Chris, are you ready?
Yes, of course.
Okay, cool. Okay. So, Simon Sinek, he always says, start with why. I mean, always start with why. So there are two whys or two ingredients to why behind the Tech for Good program at Netguru. And Krzysztof was there at the very beginning. Can you tell us the why, who we are? I mean, what was the initial thought?
Sure. So just to remind all of you, we are at Netguru, a digital consultancy providing product design and software development services. And there are periods in our business when part of the team is not involved in the commercial projects. And usually we engage them in R&D related initiatives. Unfortunately, those initiatives are not always interesting from the user and business perspective, or you didn't used to be interesting, and in the same time they are quite challenging from the technical point of view. We wanted to change it a bit and start doing projects that are meaningful and simply make sense to be built.
So on one hand, we had people in the team, we had skills in the team, we had knowledge, and we at the same time we perfectly knew, it's not a new information, that the world was facing challenges. And these challenges were not only felt by people, they were also kind of felt in the business, by businesses, they were caused by businesses. And we thought maybe there is a work to be done by us, with the skills we have and with the knowledge that we have. And I'm pretty sure all of you know that the challenges that the world is facing are framed or are named by UN. And you know the 17 development goals by heart, sustainable development goals. And well, we were aware that as humanity, we completely exploit our planet, we drained our supply chains, and we felt like, okay, we have people in the team, let's start knocking on the doors of organizations that address these issues. And at the very beginning of this journey, we started simply knocking on the door of organizations that do these things. And Krzysztof was there at the organization. And what was, I mean, how many doors did we knocked to?
So we decided to reach out to those nonprofit organizations, and SDGs were a really nice baseline to see if the organization is doing a meaningful job and if they are aligned with our values at Netguru. So I've sent emails to over 120 organizations. That's really a lot. Yeah. And only 6 of them replied. And out of those 6, only 2 were interested to talk. And finally, we started the cooperation with one of the organizations. So you can see that we didn't get so much traction here, and we didn't have a very big track record of sustainability projects. But finally, we started the first Tech for Good project, and it was created with cooperation with the Pure Earth organization, whose mission is to reduce pollution, save lives, and protect the planet. Our goal was to build a mobile app for underrepresented communities all over the world and give them a platform to report environmental pollution in their areas. And simply, this is how it all began.
I'm facing a little technical issue, but we can manage with that. So report pollution was the first application we did within the Tech for Good framework. And just right after that, we realized that now there's more and more organizations knocking on our door, and that we cannot solve it all at once, and that we need also bigger understanding on how to work with organizations. So what we decided to do is we decided to narrow down our focus. And our sustainability strategy right now refers to 2 points, to 4 SDGs and a few more criteria. So we said, let's focus and let's narrow down to 4 SDGs. SDG number 9, this is industry, innovation, and infrastructure, which is we want to build inclusive technology. SDG number 10, about reduced inequalities, that we want to not only address through the technology that we provide, but also internally as an organization, and we want to advocate it outside of the organization. 11, sustainable cities and communities, and 13, climate action. So we knew that this is the area when we want to focus, because this is where we have the most material impact. We did our homework, we checked where our material impacts are. And also we said, okay, the judging criteria should be there. I mean, if somebody is asking us for help, we should do it effectively. And in order to do it effectively, we just need to check whether the project that is coming to our door is like sustainability-wise, technically-wise, growth and impact-wise, and whether we have the proper resources in place. So Krzysztof Chris is in the team where we are working on these Tech for Good projects. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. I think there's a lot more projects coming. Thank you, Chris. And right now, I would like to introduce you to our very special guest today. So Kevin Conrad, who is the Executive Director for Coalition for Rainforest Nations. So listen to this story. Kevin's story is a modern day story of David versus Goliath, about a man taking a simple idea of making trees worth more alive than dead to stop deforestation. He spent a decade of his life taking on the world's governments, most famously US government in 2004, and persuading the world to adopt his market-based mechanism for saving the rainforests. Reducing deforestation and degradation, that's the name you have to remember after this session, RED+, which he accomplished in 2015. Time magazine named Ambassador Conrad a hero of the environment and #1 for leaders and visionaries. UN Environment named Ambassador Conrad a champion of the earth for policy leadership. These are the big titles. Now, Kevin and his organization, Coalition for Rainforest Nations, are focused on finishing the job by training countries to measure the carbon value of their forests and create a commercial market for trading the carbon credits that they produce. Kevin, welcome to the stage.
Hi, Karolina. Thanks for the invite. Sorry, it's
Great
morning here, so I'm a little bit sleepy, so I apologize.
Don't worry, it's normal before 12 a.m., right? For many people. Don't worry. So it's really great to have you here. So it's not morning where I'm sitting. It's already a little bit past 3. I am in Krakow, which is south of Poland, where I go, very often I go hiking. And when I do it recent days, I mean, in my adult life, I am fearing that what I took for granted as a child might not necessarily be there in the future. I didn't have that when I was young and when I was going to nature hiking. And so tell us about your early life, because you grew up in Papua New Guinea, and what is your relationship to rainforests?
Karolina, I've been to Krakow and I've actually walked in the forest there too, so I understand what you're saying. I grew up in Papua New Guinea and deep in the rainforest. My father is a linguist. He was interested in preserving languages, but we had a one-room school. The teacher got bored of dealing with ruffians like me, so he would excuse us very early in the day, and I would just be in the rainforest for the rest of the day, fishing, hunting, etc. So I grew up with a very sort of direct and visceral connection to the forests. I then sort of got allegedly educated and civilized, and was spending time in the U.S. I got a graduate degree at Columbia Business School and London Business School, and I was just thinking, what is it that I could do to help the communities back home? They struggle with poverty, but yet they're rich in biodiversity. They're rich in what the services their forests provide for the world, pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, and they're doing it all for free. So poor people working for free. And so I wanted to try to think of a way to fix that. And the idea was to involve their rainforests in the carbon and in climate change, and have them be paid for their services. And that was the idea behind REDD+.
So tell us, let's start at the very beginning. Why are rainforests so important to tackle the climate emergency? Why rainforests? Rainforests
are it's like burning a candle at both ends. When you cut down a rainforest and it sort of degrades, the carbon that the forests have pulled out of the air through photosynthesis go back in the atmosphere. But if you leave a tree standing, by virtue of growing, it pulls carbon out. So when you deforest, you're hurting the environment twice. You're destroying a natural process that removes carbon, and you're putting that carbon back in the atmosphere where it was pulled from. So we can't defeat climate change without saving rainforests. It's just impossible.
Okay, now we would like to understand a little bit more about how the saving process works. So if you can tell us what the reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation, which is REDD+, am I pronouncing it correctly?
You are.
This is the initiative that you champion. So how does it work?
I'm gonna do that in the context of where we are today in climate change. And let me just sort of remind everyone, as we sort of make it through 2020 with COVID and all of the challenges, we have even a bigger challenge, and that is for us to stay on 1.5 degrees, we really only have 10 years left to do something serious when it relates to the climate. So the past 25 years, scientists have been sort of telling us this, and we've been listening, but not doing things on the scale we need to do them. And that's sort of where I'm at. We've seen the fires in Australia. We've seen the fires in now California and the West. That's more of the future. That's what's going to happen. So how do we actually get developing countries to do their part? And that's what I'd like to talk about. We had to build trust between rich countries and poor countries. And the way to build trust is through transparent systems. So we use satellite imagery, we use on-the-ground ground truthing, and countries have to report on all of their forests. So I'm going to take a pause there because it looks like there's a little bit of technical problems. Is this broadcasting well?
Let me check. Should be okay.
Okay.
I also
okay. All right.
Yes, it's okay. Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Things are freezing. So
yeah, for me as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the idea is the UN system verifies all of the work that developing countries have done.
Yeah.
How is it that they slow their rates of deforestation? How is it that we verify that, estimating how much carbon has been saved? And then they report that on a website. And that's where it ends. So we have all of these numbers on a website, and that's where technology helps us sort of problem solve here. And I'm going to get to that in a moment.
What do countries need to do to make their rainforest eligible for the carbon credits?
It's not easy. So they have to, I'm just going to say this, a lot of it's technical, but I'm going to explain it to you. They have to provide a national greenhouse gas inventory. So what that means is they have to they have to assess every tree in their entire country and estimate the carbon in it and send a report to the UN. The UN then reviews that greenhouse gas inventory and verifies that it is accurate. The second thing they have to do is they have to create what's called a reference level. So they have to go back in time, assess all of the deforestation that they've been doing since, for example, 2005 or 2010, based on where they have data, and they then create a trend line. So our deforestation is going up 5%, for example. Then they have to continually report every 2 years. And if they can show that they are bending the curve, they are paid for the carbon credits but beneath the curve, where they have bent the curve. And the idea is to push it down to zero over the coming decades. So they get paid for their progress, for their results. And those results are what we need the world to help us pay for. And that's why we've been working with Netguru.
And what is the scale? I mean, what is the scale of the initiative? How many countries do you represent right now?
Yeah, that's an important point. When we first started, about 1.5% of the world's rainforests were in sort of a national program to try to slow rates of deforestation, and that primarily was Costa Rica. We have to tip our
right?
Yeah, we have to tip our hat to Costa Rica. They were ahead of the rest of the world. It took us 15 years, and we had to go through the UN system to make it work. But we're now over 90% of the world's rainforests and forests in developing countries are in a similar national mechanism to reduce rates of deforestation in their countries. So we moved the sort of dial from 1% to over 90%. And that's why we have a huge opportunity. We've built a Ferrari that allows us to push down the throttle and actually go fast and slow rates of deforestation. The challenge now is we need technology to help us get that done.
So now the Ferrari, the platform about Ferrari. So where are these credits traded? How it works with trading?
Good point. The UN does its part to verify and post the credits. So you can go to a website, which I'm happy to share, and it will list country by country what their reference level is and how many results or emission reductions they've achieved. And then there the UN stops. So we've been working with Netguru to build us a website and an app so that anyone who wants to become carbon neutral, be an individual or a company or a city or a group of friends, anyone who wants to become carbon neutral can buy those credits from those developing countries under the Paris Agreement. These are the only credits available now under the Paris Agreement. And they can become carbon neutral or carbon negative, meaning you can go back in time and offset all the carbon that you have emitted from the beginning of your life as a company or an individual or a city. So that's the power of the app that we're working on with Netguru.
So when I enter the webpage, I see a button that says buy.
Yes.
Yeah, this is register to buy RRUs now.
Yes.
So can I buy Karolina? Can I go there and buy it now, or should I be representing a company, or can I afford it? What's the currency? I mean,
all good questions. So we have a pilot working right now, which is not fully automated. So as an individual, you can buy. But for you have to buy and retire in order to get around international banking regulations. I can't sell you a commercial asset. So as an individual, you're basically buying a credit and immediately retiring it. You can't trade it, for example, and sell it for a premium to your friend. Okay. The whole idea is that individuals, you engage if you want to become carbon neutral personally or as a family or as a group. Companies have a different registration process, where they have a little more flexibility. They can hold credits for some period of time. They may be able to buy them on behalf of, if they're a consulting firm, they can buy them on behalf of another company, but they have a whole other regulatory process. So you have to go in and say, I'm an individual, then you have certain rights. If I'm a company, you have different rights and different capabilities. But having said that, the full site will be available probably in a couple months. We're working. We're waiting for Netguru actually to tell us when the new platform will be built.
We will play the whole session to the team that is delivering the product.
Yes,
we'll do that. Okay.
Good.
And so the currency, just once again, the currency is these RRUs, right?
Yes. What you're buying is a UN verified emission reduction.
Okay.
That you can then use in almost any currency. Right now we work with banks, so you can use US dollars, you can use euros. you can use yen, all the major currencies can be used to purchase a credit, but then that credit would be matched with your footprint. So it's not a really expensive thing. Let me just use an example, and I'll use the United States. The average American emits about 25 tons of carbon per year. Okay. A credit will sell for about $10 to $15. So we're talking about $250 to sort of $375 for the average American to become carbon neutral for a year. And we would allow that to be done on a monthly payment or however you want to do it. But it's not a crazy expensive thing for the average person to become carbon neutral. And while becoming carbon neutral, to give money to communities in poor countries to save their rainforests. So it's a win-win. I become carbon neutral, and the money goes to communities who are working to save their rainforests.
So now you gave us the example that somehow referred to an individual. And if it comes to tech, how can tech play a difference for rainforests? Like, I don't know, tech giants, like, can we do something? We are not a giant yet, but what is happening there in the area of becoming carbon neutral?
Some exciting things. So companies like Microsoft have pledged to become carbon neutral since the day they were founded. So they are doing the math, going back through their records and finding how much electricity they bought, how many flights they took, where their employees drove, what the carbon footprint according to the food that they served in their cafeterias. That's called carbon footprinting. You can then carbon footprint on an annualized basis and go back as far as you wish. So Microsoft is taking leadership, saying we want to become carbon neutral since the day we were founded. And they are then doing two things. They're investing in renewable energy going forward, and they are buying credits going backwards. And so the whole idea is you buy credits only for the emission reductions you can't do yourself. First, you have to do the emission reductions, and only what you can't do, you buy credits for to support developing countries doing the same.
This just has to happen because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Like if you don't change anything in the way you operate your business, but you just offset, then probably the mechanism. So you need to reduce your carbon emission first, then you go offsetting.
Yes, and the other point that's important to realize is that even if Europe and the United States went to zero, we still haven't solved the climate problem if India, China, Papua New Guinea, all the other countries aren't doing the same. And that's why this partnership is really important. Not only do we have to reduce in Europe and in the US and in Japan, but by reducing, we have to incentivize developing countries to do the same. So that's why this system works. We have to get emission reductions on both sides of the economic divide in order to succeed.
I cannot not ask the next question, which is, how has COVID affected your work?
I think the same as everyone, it has slowed things down. A lot of our work is flying to developing countries. We have to be on the ground, understanding what's going on in their country, understand what's causing deforestation, and help the governments with policies to sort of combat deforestation. So trying to do that by technology is a challenge, particularly in many poor countries that don't have fast internet speeds, and even the internet speeds they have are quite expensive. So it's slowed our work down. It hasn't brought us to a stop, but it's a bit of a challenge. And this is where you asked a question and I didn't quite answer it. Where can technology companies help? There are a variety of places. So one is helping us analyze satellite imagery. So there's a lot of satellite imagery that's up now in real time. None of us can hide anymore. Satellites are flying over us every 17 minutes or whatever it is. But using that data and analyzing it in a practical way for a community in the rainforest is a challenge, and technology can help us. Other ways technology can help is building platforms to match people who are trying to reduce their emissions with countries that are trying to save their rainforest. That matching platform is important. Payment systems, how to get money from someone who wants to be carbon neutral to a community that is working to save their rainforest, and doing that for very low cost, so the money actually goes to the community and not service providers, is really important. So those are just some of the examples where technology can actually make a huge difference in our challenge.
I'm wondering also, apart from tech, what is the way for people to support your work? Like anybody, people who are present today on the session.
Well, there are two simple ways. So we have a nonprofit that works with countries on the capacity. So how do I measure my forest? How do I meet all these criteria that the UN requires of me? It's not easy. So you can get tax-free, you can support our work tax-free by donating to that work. The other part is then you can buy credits, and that money goes directly to the communities who are doing the work. So first they have to know how to save the forest and how to report on whether they're saving the forest. And then they need sustainable livelihoods. So they need money that helps them do other things other than cut down their trees and sell the wood and all of those kind of things. So that money goes to sustainable livelihoods for the local communities.
This is super fascinating. And now what I want to know, how much voluntary it is. I mean, we will have a next session about regulations. Now, what kind of regulations we need? Because when you ask people to do things voluntary, then you know how it works. Not always works.
Well, I think all of us as human beings, when we're taking money off our food tables, for example, and giving it to something else, either a government through tax or to another person or community or business, we want to feel confident that our money is going where it intends to go, and that we know the system is robust. And that's where regulation is really helpful. So I'll just give you for example, when we started, there were a lot of people trying to save the rainforest. You know, this wasn't an original idea. The point though was, how do we move that to scale, and how do we build a system that is trustworthy? And so that's why we took this entire system to the UN. So now all 192 countries have agreed to a complex sort of rule-based system that every government supports. And now we have to do the same country by country. Otherwise, voluntary actions will not scale.
Exactly. Kevin, it's so great to have you here. I mean, thank you so much for sharing this. I think, I mean, it requires a lot of awareness of what is happening around, a bigger scale, that we are so much interconnected as people and planet and businesses and organizations. So and it's throughout the day, as we started the Disruption Forum, everybody's just saying nobody will do anything on his or her own. So thank you for taking it to the level of international UN regulation or possibility. Thank you for being with us today. And hope.
Well, one small close. I think I've got 1 minute left, and that is just to encourage everyone. We can do this. We know what to do. We know how to do it. The climate change is a problem we can solve. And rainforests are just the first step. We've got to do it in every other sector, but we've shown how to do it in rainforests. It's possible to do it in every other sector. And what we need is everyone working together. But take hope, take faith. We can defeat this.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We stay in touch.
All right.
Take care.